So what motivates you to write a book, and how do you choose or decide what you're going to write next?
Um, I, there are actually the two questions are almost identical. The problem is that I don't have a procedure, an algorithm for this.
Yeah.
Don't have an effective procedure, and of all the things in my job, it's really quite a wonderful job. This is the hardest part for me, is trying to figure out what to do next. Sometimes I've spent as much as 2 or 3 years, well, hope not 3, but as long as it would take me to write a book, trying to figure out what to write about. I don't know why that is. There has to be some. I have the great good fortune now. I didn't always in my career to be able to pick and choose, but I almost have there are too many options, and but I would rather, kill something, halfway along than go on and do it. But there has to be some kind of connection that I feel. Stories that talk well don't necessarily work for me. Indeed, I mean, sometimes they do, but it's not a guarantee of anything. But I'm always suspicious of ones that do, and actually was suspicious of this story for that reason. But I don't have the only thing I would say is I don't start with subjects usually. I almost never do. I start with somebody, and then I get interested in the subjects that interest them. That isn't always true, but it's the main thing. And I've also had the great luxury of being able to. I've never wanted to write about the same thing twice, so I get to change the subject every 3, 4 years, 5 years, and I can keep the same job. It's nice. Although this one, Strength in What Remains, does come out of pretty, in fact, quite directly out of Mountains Beyond Mountains about Paul Farmer.
So that kind of goes along with our second question. Out of all the profound people that you mention in your books, especially in Strength in What Remains, even if they are just sub-characters, how did you decide to write about Deo?
In 2003, I believe it was, just around the time when I had finished Mountains Beyond Mountains, but it wasn't published yet. Paul Farmer had a serious knee operation, and my wife and I went to see him at he was at Eliot House at Harvard. It was and he was laid up, but there was this guy there. That was Deo. So I met him. I spent most of that visit talking to Paul, and my wife spoke with Deo, and he told her some of his story. I don't know how that came to pass because I wasn't there, but on the way home in the car, she told me what she recalled of it. And I thought, well, it's quite a story. And I just sort of filed it away for several years. And then when I was, as usual, thrashing around trying to figure out what to do next, she said, I tend to share that worry with whoever happens to be in my household. And she finally said, sort of in consternation, why don't you go see that guy? We met at Paul Farmer's. So I did, and he told me, again, the outlines of his story. And I thought, this is something I'd like to try to write about. But I had to make sure that he was willing. And you can't guarantee that at the very beginning of things, but you can try. And the older I've gotten, the harder I've tried. So I thought I'd done a pretty good job. But but what I didn't anticipate was how hard this would be for him.